Get back to whale evolution. Based on fossil evidence, the skeleton represents the actual Ambliocetus, the one we see there. But that is a drawing, of course, based on some fossils of bones that they found. They didn't find the whole bone, they found certain ones. We found this, but just to give you an example. The artist's rendition by National Geographic has imaginary web feet, and the hind legs look almost like fins based on the bone structure. So what I'm saying is that is the picture, the bottom, that was drawn of the Ambliocetus. And by the way, Ambliocetus, anybody know what angulo means? Able to move, ambulatory. And cetus, guess what that means? It means a whale. So whoever named this fossil said, hey, we think this is a precursor to whale, so we're going to name it whale. So it's called the walking whale. There's no fossil evidence of webbed feet, and there's no rare connection to say that he had legs like a fin, back legs like a fin. But they draw it that way. All we have is an interesting story in an attempt to prove macroevolution. Why isn't it more reasonable that the whale was designed by intelligent designers based on my last ones? It could go both ways. Conclusion, Ambliocetus was a land animal, and there is no valid evidence that it was a whale. But it is named whale. I guess maybe that's good evidence right there. All right. One of the references that Jim used was a rather long article called 29 Plus Evidence of Macroevolution. And in there, before it gets started in its evidence of macroevolution, it says this: none of the dozens of predictions directly address how macroevolution has occurred, how fins were able to develop into limbs, how leopards got spots, or how the vertebrate eye evolved. All they're saying here, and this is not criticism, it's just what they said. We're not going to use the normal evolutionary evidences of macroevolution. We're not even going to address that in this article. None of the evidence recounted here assumes that natural selection is valid. None of the evidence assumes that natural selection is sufficient for generating adaptations or the differences between species or other taxa. Taxa is just a term basically meaning species. What they're saying is we're going to show you evidence of macroevolution without even referring to any of this. Okay? You are welcome to Google 29 plus evidences of macroevolution. It'll come right up. It's a long PDF. You can read through it if you're so inclined. I did. And it actually has a lot of evidences that are basically broken down in the same way. What they say is, if in fact something is an ancestor of another species, then they'll have these characteristics. And then they go back, then they say, well, this had those characteristics, therefore it's an ancestor. Okay. It's more involved than that, agreed, but suit yourself, read it. It's interesting. Uses techniques to convince us that macroevolution is proven by predictions that macroevolution makes concerning common ancestry. They use two different techniques: reverse predicting and circular reasoning. Okay, I'm going to talk about what that is. Reverse predicting is a technique of faulty reasoning that employs observing a phenomenon that is obviously true, like the whale does exist. That's true, nobody will argue with that. And it has fins, and it has homologous features to other land animals. It picks something that's obviously true, claiming that the phenomenon is predicted by an earlier hypothesis. The earlier hypothesis is Ambliocetus finally, through evolution, became whale. This technique allows you to back into a prediction that is certainly true. So I see a whale and I say, okay, well, if the Ambulocetus was an ancestor of the whale, it would probably have feet that were designed to swim, and it would have maybe a blowhole in the top of his nose or something like that, because that would be and then so therefore, since my studies say Ambulocetus had those things, that therefore it is an ancestor of the whale. But they had all the data before they actually made the prediction. Now, Harvey, here's my prediction. I am predicting that you will come to this group today. And it was a good prediction. And the reason it is because Sharon sent out a bunch of emails and you were one of them. And based on that evidence, I predict you're coming here today. Now, I already knew you were here before I made the prediction. That's what I call reverse predicting. I don't hope you all understand that, what I'm saying. All right. Circular reasoning. A logical fallacy, and this is I guess, Wikipedia. A logical fallacy in which the reasoner begins with what they are trying to end up with. Components of circular argument are often logically valid because if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. And we're going to keep beating this dead horse about the Ambulocetus. Example, Ambulocetus is an ancestor of the modern whale because it had some similar bones and it could both walk and swim. If whales descend from earlier forms, it can be predicted that those forms would have some similar bones and could both walk and swim. Okay, that is a proof of macroevolution, or an evidence, excuse me. I don't want to use the word proof. And this is, if you read it, you can see that's what's happening, but here's some of the truths. Although every reconstruction of the Ambulocetus shows a blowhole in the snout, there's no fossil evidence of a blowhole in Ambulocetus. Why does it have a blowhole? It's because it was an ancestor of the whale. That's why it has a blowhole, although I've never seen it. Although the pelvis area fossils do not exist, you can see the bones that actually exist in B down here. Okay, the one on top is an artist's rendition of what the bones would be if they were all there. Although the pelvis area fossils do not exist, evolutionists claim that the Ambulocetus was a swimmer. There is no fossil evidence for it. Why is it a swimmer? Because it had to be if it was going to be an ancestor of the whale. And here's the big one, never been explained by evolutionary biologists. Undisputed fossils of whales have been found in lower rock strata. This is never mentioned by evolutionists. Could not have whale bones below the ancestor. Conclusion, Ambulocetus was a land animal and there's no valid evidence that it was a whale. All right, here's another thinking of circular reasoning. Brings evolution into it. 1, there is no creator God. 2, if there is no creator God, then there's another explanation of everything we see. You maybe have to agree with those two statements if you're an atheist or agnostic. If 1 and 2 are correct, evolution is the logical answer and everything came together by complete chance. Again, a statement of evolutionary theory. Number 4, if chance and evolution is the answer, there is no creator God. Circular reasoning starts with a premise, it ends with the same premise. And that 29 plus evidences of macroevolution has all kinds of that in it. And much to your gratification, that's in